Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here today with a tag video, the Bookish Elements Tag. This was created by Sarah at the channel My Granny Era, love the name, and I was tagged by two people, which is why I moved it to the top of my list. I was tagged by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and also by Kevin Toll Reads. So thank you very much to both of them, and I will link all of those channels below. This is a really fun and interesting tag, a little bit different, so I liked that about it. It's all about accessories or other elements of reading. So question 1, how do you feel about foreshadowing or dropped hints? I love foreshadowing. I think it's a very effective literary device. I think the very best foreshadowing happens when there is some kind of a big twist or surprise in the plot, and you realize that without knowing it, there were hints and foreshadowing ahead of time. And you are so intrigued by that you flip back to the front of the book and reread a section because it was so well done, so subtle that you didn't even see it coming. That's the best kind of foreshadowing. Question 2, bookmarks. What do you use? How do you feel about bending the corner down? So I just did a whole tag video about bookmarks, the Hold My Place tag, so I will link to that. I can sum up my bookmark collection with a photo. And I keep all of my bookmarks just shoved in my nightstand drawer. There's a big pile of them. I'm also okay with bending down a corner, but I use really tiny dog ears when I do use them. And I don't use them to hold my place, but to mark a quote or a passage that I want to remember or come back to. I'm doing something else these days, but if I don't have anything else at hand, then a little tiny dog ear does the trick. Question 3, forgotten bookmarks. Have you ever found something strange in a book? Well, I've found the usual like receipts and things like that in used books or library books. I think the most unique things I've found have been in our own books, in our own house. I don't remember which book, but I went back to reread a book years later and found this laminated photo of our oldest son sitting on Santa's lap, looking very dazed. And that, of course, just made my day. I must have used it as a bookmark at one point. My husband found this in a book. It's like a homemade Pokemon card. My kids used to have this software with all the Pokemon characters in it, so I'm sure that they printed those out. I don't know if that was in one of my son's books that my husband was reading, or if it was just lying around the house somewhere and got used as a bookmark. Question 4, inscriptions and annotations. How do you feel about writing in a book, and how do you annotate if you do? I haven't really written in a book since my college days. I don't know. It's just not something I do. I don't have anything against it. If you own the book, fine. Obviously, you should not be writing in a library book. But if you own the book, hey, that's up to you. So I do have a bunch of classics left over from high school that are filled with my annotations from reading them and discussing them in class. All kinds of notes for my English classes. I was an English class geek. I loved reading books for English class. I loved our class discussions. I had some fabulous English teachers. So yeah. So some of my older books, when I reread some of these old classics, I find all of this negative connotations, all of these things irony, things that I wrote down. And occasionally some of my old classics, unfortunately, also have like old boyfriends' names written on the sides. Not this one, but yeah. But I rarely, if ever, write in a book now. Question 5, introductions and footnotes. Do you read them or avoid? What makes a good introduction? I read every part of a book. If I have really loved a book, I will read everything at the back. The author's note, the acknowledgments, the whatever the publisher has put in there, everything. It's that feeling when a book is so good you just don't want to finish it and you want to know as much as possible. However, last summer, a book was spoiled for me by its introduction. That was the modern classic Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, which I read for Big Book Summer and for June on the Range last year. Loved this book. However, I was really upset. There's a little preface written by the author, just a couple of pages. I thought, this is great. So Lonesome Dove was it was published in 1985. The author wrote this preface in 2010. And he included a major spoiler in the preface. I was so mad. And because this was our Big Book Summer read-along book last year, I passed along immediately, do not read the preface if you have this edition. Love foreshadowing, hate spoilers. There's a big difference. And this, it made me so mad. So I am cautious now about introductions, but I will go back and read the introduction after I read the book. Question 6, accessories. Do you use bookish accessories like a clip-on reading light, book sleeve, annotation materials, bookstand, etc.? Generally, I am a no-frills reader. All I need is my book with a bookmark in it, and I'm set. As for lights, we are campers, so my husband and I both use headlamps for reading lights. We use them when we're in the camper, and, on the rare occasion we need them at home. Actually, during my nap, at the beginning of my nap, sometimes I'll use the headlamp if it's a really dark day. I need a nap every day because of my chronic illness. So yeah, so and I have to close the blinds before I nap, obviously. And of course, I read before my nap, obviously. So if it's a really dark day and there's not enough light in the room, then I will wear the headlamp at nap time. But for the most part, just use the lamp on my bedside table. Now, as I said, I used to just do little tiny dog ears on pages with quotes or passages I wanted to go back to or transcribe later. And then I just recently rediscovered these Post-it page markers that, now originally I had the whole pack, what's shown there. There were different color quotation marks, exclamation points, question marks, asterisks. Now I found these because of the Hold My Place book tag. Because when I dug out all of those old bookmarks from my nightstand drawer, I found the package of these that I completely forgot about. So, unfortunately, a bunch of them, the question marks, the other quote tabs, were so old that, in fact, some of these, I don't know why these are still in there. There's like no sticky left on the edge. But I do still have the exclamation point and the quotes, and they're still working quite well. So I've been using those a lot. I just finished a buddy read with Nikki, who used to have the channel Red Dot Reads. And as you can see, I made ample use of the quotation marks and the exclamation points. With a buddy read, it's a great way to mark the passages that you want to go back to when you leave a message or talk to your buddy. Another recent acquisition, my son got me a book subscription box for Christmas. It was actually last year's Christmas gift, but I finally activated it and started it in January this year. And one of the things in the first package was a whole pack of these little like metallic arrow things that fit on a page. So those are also great for marking passages. Some, they're kind of scattered around now. Some are stuck on there because some are still in Wintering, the first book that I read this year. So this is my real problem. I mark things, I mark quotes and passages that I want to transcribe into my quotes journal. Last year, I transitioned to a quotes journal on my computer, and I thought this will be easier to keep up with than handwriting. And here's the stack of books currently waiting for me to transcribe quotes. So you can see I'm not doing very well at keeping up. I'm great at marking the quotes, not so great at writing them down. Okay, question 7, art and illustrations. How do cover art and illustrations affect your reading experience? I would say generally not all that much. It's great, you know, if a book has a beautiful cover or a cover that gives insight into the book itself, then I'll keep looking back at it. I certainly admire nice cover art, but it doesn't really affect whether or not I choose a book or my reading experience. You know, something like Cloud Cuckoo Land that I read also for Big Book Summer last year. Once you've read the book and you know what it's about, then it's fun to look at all the detail on the cover and see, you know, what's there. On the other hand, even though the cover wouldn't necessarily enhance my reading experience, it can spoil it. I read a book one time for book group. It was about a neighborhood with a very diverse group of women who ended up bonding. The women were different races, different sizes, but the cover of the book, different ages, but the cover of the book showed like 4 medium build white women, thin, all beautiful, sitting around a table. And it drove me crazy because it was not at all a reflection of the book or the characters. So yeah, there's the other side of that. Question 8, format. Which format of books do you prefer? Hardback, paperback, audio, digital? Do you do different things for different situations? For me, it's however the book is available. If there's a book I really want to read, let's say if my book group chooses a book, I usually go to the library first if it's not one I already own. And I'll take whatever format it's available in. If I can get the print copy, that's great. I do generally prefer to read print books. And I would say 90% of the print reading I do is physical books rather than ebooks. However, I do listen to a lot of audiobooks. I always have an audiobook going and I always have a print book going. I will read an ebook if that's what's available, like through Libby, or these days a lot of the publishers are providing ebooks for review rather than physical books, almost all of them now. So I do end up reading. I get a lot of graphic novels for review, and these days most of those are ebook. So yeah, it all depends on how the book is available to me. I'm really not that picky, although if I have a choice, I will choose hardcover or paperback. Doesn't matter which. Actually, for convenience, a paperback is nice. It's lighter weight. But if you're going to keep a book, or it's a book that's special to you, then it's nice to have a hardcover. And finally, tag some people. So this one's been going around a lot. I tried to choose people who haven't done the tag yet, but I don't know for sure they haven't already been tagged. So I am tagging the Mild Rumpus, Jess, Bookgirl TV, and BookBuds. But anyone else who is interested in doing this tag, please consider yourself tagged. I would also love to hear your answer to some of these questions in the comments down below. Let me know how you read.